Imagine that another school year has begun. As always, this time is filled with many mixed emotions: dread, excitement, happiness, and anxiety, to name a few. However, you feel none of these. Instead, all you feel is fear, hopelessness, and anger. You ask yourself, how am I going to pay for this? These uniforms are just too expensive. While living in England, many parents express these feelings to me. Did you know that more than 10% of UK families with children are having to take out loans to pay for their children's mandatory school uniforms? According to the Children's Society, 1 million children live in families across England who are getting into debt to meet the rising cost of school uniforms. Now, many of you listening feel that this is irrelevant to you. Your school didn't have uniforms, and school uniforms aren't all that popular in the United States. However, this European trend is quickly taking the US by storm. The NCES, the National Center for Educational Statistics, reported that from 1999-2000 school year to 2015-2016 school year, the percentage of public schools reporting that they've required students to wear uniforms increased from 12% to 21%. These numbers are on the rise, and as an interested and concerned individual, I have researched this topic in depth. Today, I will share with you what makes school uniforms a problem, how we can solve this problem, and what are some potential outcomes. Let's begin with why school uniforms are such a problem. As previously discussed, one of the biggest issues school uniforms create are they place a financial burden on families. While living in England, I talked with a man who had experienced this. This man was a school administrator. In the United States, he would be the equivalent of a vice principal. He told me a story about how one year his daughter was attending a school that had a mandatory shoe that all students had to have. This shoe cost over $100, and his family struggled to pay for it. And this man was a vice principal and had a good job. This is not an isolated incident. According to the website Teaching Times, families with children in secondary school are paying on average more than $300 per child for school uniforms. More often than not, families have more than one child, and these costs quickly add up. Also, parents still have to pay for their children's recreational clothing, clothing for sports, clothing for the weekends, clothing for after-school activities. The high cost of dress clothes required by schools with uniform policies are not at all offset by the supposed benefits of requiring students to wear the same thing. Not only can school uniforms place a financial burden on parents, they are also negatively impacting students. Susie Yu, a reporter for Glenbrook, South Oregon, wrote an article about a local student, Sharon Kim, who started a fashion club at her school. Kim said, "Clothing is a great outlet to express yourself, your mood, and your personality, especially for those who tend to be more shy." Later in the article, it was said that fashion is important to students because it is a unique and creative outlet. Truly, clothing and style is a way that some people interact with the world. It's the way that they express themselves. School uniforms are a problem because they prevent students from expressing themselves. Judith Glaser, the founder of Harvard Coaching Institute, said on self-expression, "Neuroscience is teaching us that self-expression might be one, if not the most important way for people to connect, navigate, and grow." School uniforms limit self-expression. School uniforms are a problem, and they are a problem growing in the United States. Now that we know the problem school uniforms present, what is an appropriate course of action to take that can solve said problem? For starters, I strongly feel school uniforms should not be required for public schools within the U.S. They're not so widespread in the United States, and therefore it would be easy to put a stop to them right now. Public schools that require school uniforms are a problem in and of themselves. Parents that don't have the money to buy school uniforms also don't have the money to pay to send their children to school districts that don't have uniforms. This is unfair to them. If school uniforms are abolished, dress codes that ensure modesty and non-distracting attire could be put into place. And they can do so without interfering with students expressing themselves in healthy ways through clothing. By ending mandatory school uniforms in public schools and implementing dress codes, families will have more money and students will be able to express themselves in a way that is healthy and not distracting. Next, I would like to present a couple of possible outcomes. If school uniforms are done away with in the manner suggested, schools can flourish. The following outcome is a real one. It was my own school's experience. I attended a poor school. The school district had often considered implementing uniforms, however they eventually decided against it. A dress code that was well thought out was in place instead, and the school accomplished every bit as much with this dress code. What did they accomplish? Bleckley County school system was in the top 10 percentile for test scores while being in the bottom 10 percentile money-wise. I believe that a large part of this is due to the dress code, but not uniforms. You see, families were happy with the schools. They had high standards as expressed by the dress code. Students didn't feel restricted because they didn't have to wear uniforms, and thus they were able to experience greater personal growth. Alternatively, if we do not stop the spread of school uniforms, they will continue to spread as they have been across the United States. The result will be a generation that does not know how to express themselves in a healthy way. Because they have uniforms, they will feel identical, because they will look identical. And they will start to act this way as well. They won't feel individual, and they won't be able to contribute in their own unique way. As I come to a close, I invite you to consider the negative impact that school uniforms are having. School uniforms most definitely create a problem. Plus, there are already alternatives in place that have many benefits without the associated disadvantages of uniforms. Perhaps we feel like we're just one person. We have little voice in solving this problem. If ever someone asks your opinion, I ask you to relay to them that school uniforms are not a solution, but another problem. By doing so, we can influence the outcome and help parents and students everywhere. Thank you.